I just had to recap this event because I thought it was super important and super valuable for the Tesla community, and yet Tesla didn't really publish or talk about this event anywhere. It's like a ACT Expo or something like that at Las Vegas, where a lot of all-electric trucking companies were coming together, and Tesla actually attended with the lead of the Tesla Semi program, Dan Priestley, and he had a full presentation stuffed to the gills with new footage, new photos, and new data that I'd never heard from Tesla before. So first off, let's address the biggest elephant in the room that people have been asking for years. What does the actual semi-truck tractor weigh? You know, not including the payload, not including the trailer. Lots of people were asking for this when the delivery event started, and Dan Priestley said that for their Gen 2 mass market volume produced semi-truck, they expect to easily achieve under 20,000 pounds for the tractor on the standard range model and under 23,000 pounds for the long range model. So yeah, I guess sadly they still do not want to disclose the official weight for the pilot program, as in the Tesla semis that are driving around and being used today. But because they're not willing to share that information, I think it's safe to say they must weigh quite a bit more than those targeted weights that they listed in the event of 20,000 and 23,000 pounds. But of course, for all electric semi trucks, there is a 2,000 pound additional weight allowance, so the trucking industry is willing to forgive EVs for being a little bit heavier because they're lower emission. But because Dan felt so confident and so comfortable with the idea of the second generation semi improving on, I'm guessing, energy density, and I might be speculating or guessing a little bit too much here, but my personal prediction is that the current Tesla semis, which they're slowly building, probably 1 or 2 a week right now at Giga Nevada, are using 2170 cells, because that's mostly what Giga Nevada is building. In the past, on earnings calls, Tesla has said that the semi is not using 4680 cells, at least not yet. But when they announced their big investment and big expansion into Giga Nevada, which includes a whole new Tesla Semi volume production facility targeting 50,000 units a year. Yes, 50,000 all-electric semi-trucks. They said they're going to be ramping up a 4680 line at that facility. So, taking into consideration everything I've heard Tesla say in the past, I interpreted this as Tesla has a slow but steady progress on increasing the energy density and likely the cost of 4680 cells as time goes on, and Tesla will feel more comfortable switching to the Gen 2 Tesla Semi, which will have higher energy density and likely be a lot cheaper to produce once they switch to 4680s, just because there's less overall cells, there's less connectors, there's less complexity, who knows, it might even be a little bit structural, and they essentially see a path so that by 2026 they'll achieve those target weight numbers of 20,000 pounds for the standard range and 23,000 pounds for the long range. But the efficiency is actually incredibly impressive in my opinion, as someone who, I'm not trying to say that every vehicle on the road needs to be like a two-seater or a bicycle, it's just I'm a fan of efficiency for its class, and I've accepted that much of the country is going to be dependent on heavy-duty trucking for infrastructure and supply chains, and the Tesla Semi is showcasing the most efficient possible way to use this trucking network. Obviously, if we could do more rail, that would be great too. If we can do more freight, that's awesome, but land ownership rights is a whole nother can of worms that we don't have time to get into for today's video. But as far as how efficient and how safe can you make a semi-truck form factor, Tesla is leading that charge, showcasing in this event that the long-range Tesla semis, which are loaded well over a gross weight of 70,000 pounds, are still averaging about 1.7 miles per kilowatt hour. That's insane. That's honestly kind of close to what a Hummer EV gets anyway. And then Dan mentioned for the standard range semis, which I think are also probably going to be pretty popular, they have a 300-mile range. A lot of heavy trucking routes don't even need to go that far. He said they're averaging about 1.5 miles per kilowatt hour. These are insanely low numbers for semi-trucks, and there's clearly demand for them by all of the different trucking companies testing them, like Walmart and Cisco and Costco. But as for right now, Pepsi is the only company actually taking delivery of these pilot program Tesla semis, the Gen 1 version, which is likely over 23,000 pounds. How much over, we're still not exactly sure, and we'll probably never know. But Dan Priestley actually detailed that while some people are concerned about the weight and the payload of the semi-truck capabilities, PepsiCo is actually the company ordering more Tesla semis for their pilot program, not the Frito-Lay facility, which has much easier payload requirements because, of course, they're mostly moving around bags of air. Moving around soda is practically the same as moving around water, which is very dense and very heavy because, you know, it's a liquid. But it's Pepsi who's now taking delivery of an additional 50 Tesla semis, which have a much more simple branding on the outside, which I was happy to see because that indicates that, okay, we wrapped the first couple to be all blue and black, but now we need to actually start taking delivery of more and more of these things. We can't afford to wrap every single one of them. That's going to take too long. So seeing a much more simple Pepsi sticker slapped on the side, to me, indicates that, okay, we get it. That the flashy part is over. Now we got to start using these trucks for work. So that got me excited. Also, Dan Priestley doubled down on the charging port location and standard on this one. He said, of course, they're using their own proprietary plug for the early pilot program, but they fully intend on switching to MCS, the megawatt charging system that all other heavy-duty trucking companies will have access to for the long term. And he said once they start building longer truck routes that are available to the public, like a traditional, diesel semi-truck network, those mega chargers are going to have MCS. And for now, while they're doing the pilot program and they just have behind the fence charging, he called it, at warehouses and distribution centers, they're just going to use this proprietary plug because they had it available, it was ready to go, and the MCS connector was just not out and public yet. But he doubled down that Tesla is a member of Char-In and they fully intend on volume production using open standard charge ports that can achieve well over 1 megawatt level charging. And he doubled down in this presentation how that enables them to have meaningful functionality with the Tesla Semi, with over 1,000 miles driven within a single day, and with the vast majority of those miles having an actual payload attached. The trucks being used for work, and that you don't need to have multiple Tesla Semis replacing the job of one diesel semi truck. You can just have one Tesla Semi replace the job of one diesel truck and drastically lower your cost of operations, not to mention make the atmosphere far cleaner because the lack of emissions and brake dust, all that regenerative braking, and have more advanced driver assistance features for auto braking and lane keep. I don't know about you guys, but I've driven by way too many heavy-duty semi-trucks that keep falling into other lanes and going over the line, and I don't know what the drivers are doing, if they're tired or texting, but it's quite dangerous, and I keep telling myself, we need to get just basic autopilot on these trucks. I don't care if they're gas or electric, but there's way too many times where they can't keep it between the lines. I'm sure it's difficult and tiring, but we have the technology for a computer to oversee everything and keep them centered, so let's make it happen. Other than that, he basically just explained that they're hard at work at drastically lowering the cost of the megawatt charging systems to ensure that they can deploy them at scale and affordably. But I just thought it was just a very rich, packed event full of very valuable information that Tesla fans or shareholders should be aware of. I think this is honestly one of the most underrated programs Tesla's been doing, and one that I'm very excited to see expand. My only disappointment is the fact that they don't expect that next generation Semi and that high volume facility to be ready until 2026. I feel like this should be ready in 2025. I know Tesla's using a lot of their own semi trucks for their own logistics, moving battery packs from Nevada to Fremont, but 2026 just feels a little bit further out than I thought. But maybe they're expecting the 4680s to hit a certain target by then. I don't know. What do you guys think? Feel free to drop your thoughts down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. It seriously helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.